What is going on? I'm Zedmod. We are on the dev build. That means that code Zedmod does not work. Please do throw that in every other Supercell source. We are going to skip my typical Friday video. I yesterday did a very in-depth detailed on the engraving system. You guys still have questions, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through every single engraving. This is for HQ 27 or higher. If you are not headquarters level 27, this is going to make you want to rush your headquarters. So, getting started, we have adrenaline enabled. You can only have one of these things enabled as a time. Notice that it says no slots left if you try to do it on a different one. Up that top right hand corner there, you'll see that it says slots 1 out of 1. Now we don't know if there's going to be more than 1 out of 1 in the future. This is Engraver level 1. Notice there's no upgrade button. There's no level button. If we come over here to the sculptor, wherever the heck my sculptor has been hidden, the sculptor does have a level. It's level 10. Engraver does not. So that leads me to believe we're only going to have one level of Engraver, but that is just a guess. So we've got adrenaline loaded. Adrenaline is very straightforward. It increases your unit's movement and attack speed by 20%. If we look over here in the armory, for our Zookas, for example, it doesn't say movement speed plus. It doesn't say your damage per second does not change. You just get 20%. It's one of those ones that you can't tell unless you do a side-by-side walk, or maybe you're used to using Zookas, so you can throw a flare out there and drop your troops and see that, yes, indeed, they are moving quicker. So if you're an operation player, adrenaline is quite good because you get more attacks in, you get more shots in, you get more volleys, you get more damage as a result, and maybe, just maybe, you stop using brick, but brick does, in fact, give you a speed bonus and a damage bonus, so speed bonus on top of speed bonus is pretty darn good. So, in order to change our engraving, we need to go to adrenaline and deactivate. You can't activate it. This is a two-step process. You have to deactivate first, and then you can activate. So Power Surge is the next one we're going to work on, and there are two ways to activate it. This is another thing that people were quite confused about. You can either spend 4 powder and wait 12-ish hours, or you can do it instantly. Now, a lot of people have a lot of time savers, so I am recommending you do this. And this time I was a little bit worried. I was like, oh, my engraving is expiring. Nope, this is just the new one being enabled. So you're gonna have to wait a little bit, or you can speed that up by coming back into here and clicking the speed up button and using either diamonds or time savers. We're gonna use diamonds because we're on the dev build. We've got 1 million of them, and now Power Surge is enabled. Now Power Surge is quite obvious. You've probably had it in the Mega Crab, and that is generally when you destroy a building, you get 3 GBE back. We're going to destroy a building. We're going to go from 144 up to 148. And then that next building, we're going to go from 143 up to 148. So you notice we got 4 the first time, 5 the second time. That's just the rounding that is happening. So Power Surge, very useful. It is a great engraving. And by the way, if you do check those cards yet again, I've done a tier list for all of these things, and that tier list might even be out of date now, but really, I can't tell you which engraving is the best because it depends what troops you use, which events, operations, Mega Crab, HQ level, not an issue, but how many things you have left to upgrade definitely is. So moving down the line, we're going to deactivate Power Surge and bring on Ordinance. Now, this one, again, fairly straightforward. Some of these descriptions are very good, so I'm not going to spend time on them. We're just going to use those diamonds, speed things up. Personally, I'd rather use time savers than powder, but it depends. Maybe you have 12 bajillion powder and you don't care. So Ordinance increases damage for barrage and artillery by 30%. If we come into here and we have a look Notice that there is that bonus shown, so you can see that math, and I'm not sure that any of the popular calculators like pixelcrux.com, for example, actually have this included. I just checked Pixelcrux and it doesn't. So you might have to do a little bit of extra math here if you're trying to barrage something out or BART something out. So that stuff pretty straightforward. If we have a look here, we throw a barrage onto a shock launcher, and generally, depending on how much health things have and what level things are, you can't BART out a shock launcher with one barrage, and now suddenly we can. So Ordinance, very, very straightforward. And very, very much an edge case. I don't think that Ordinance is the right option for many people, but maybe you're trying to get an operation attack down and there's like 200,000 health in the core, so you just switch it up. Probably not the best choice, and that's why Ordinance is down low on my tier list. We are going to keep moving forwards though. We need, and this activate, deactivate system kind of annoys me, but the fact is, activating is expensive, so I can understand why they made it a two-step process so you don't accidentally do it. We are going to save ourselves having to spend those diamonds. Insulation. Again, this is where, very straightforward, reduces the duration of inhibiting effects such as stun, aka being shocked, and freeze for your troops by 50%. So if we have a look at this shock launcher over here, this shock launcher is level 11. If we come back over into here and look at this shock launcher, the shock duration of the level 11 is 3.2 seconds. So if we throw something into here, and let's just clear... How can we do this the best? We're going to send some heavies back there. We're going to let our heavies get shocked by that shock launcher. And in theory, if we get some heavies back there and we throw a that and a that, and this also does apply to shock mines, by the way. So we could just, I suppose, hit a shock mine if we could find one on this base. But for the second, we're going to send our heavies all the way towards the back. And you guys don't have a lot of questions about some of these, so this one should probably very, very, very straightforward for you. We are going to let that shock launcher hit our troops. Then I'm going to throw a smoke on top and we'll just do the old Mississippi trick. So there is the shock launcher throwing a shock, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and our troops can already move. So fairly straightforward. Great things. We're going to let that shock launcher hit some more of our troops here, and 1 Mississippi, and it's dead. So, yes, the shock launcher is still working, but working for half as long. And you see that heavy turned the wrong direction there for a second. It forgot it was retreating. So that one, again, very, very, very straightforward. And some of this stuff, some of you have already tuned out. That's okay. Maybe you're waiting for a specific engraving. Do check the chapters. You can skip the ones you don't care about. But again, I don't like the deactivate, reactivate situation, but I fully understand why they did it. Into Rally, and I ranked Rally quite low on my usable engravings, but you guys have said you really do like it. So every single time one of your troops lose, your troops get faster. So, and this is the part that's a little bit confusing here. It says bigger units give more boost. So I'm thinking what that means is for every single landing craft slot, you get 0.6. So if you lose a Scorcher, which takes up 14, for example, you would get 14 times that amount. What we are going to do here is we're just going to drop some Scorchers here, just fully loading up a bunch of Scorchers, and then we will send some Bombardiers to the back and see just how fast they are, because this is not how you would use it. I'll show you that in a second here, but what we're going to do here is we're just going to spend those diamonds, load up all of our troops, and we're probably going to run into a time where we can't attack myself anymore, but sending Scorchers right to about there. We're going to flare, it says normal. I'm not quite sure what I just did. Again, this is the dev build. Silly things are happening. And now we're going to drop some Barrage over there to clear some of those mines, and just waiting for our Scorchers to die. Hoping they die quite quickly. But again, this base does not have any statues on it except for that one beautiful green one, so it's going to take a little bit of time for our Scorchers to die. We could throw a Barrage on top to help speed that up. And by the way, see that those bunkers are shooting from... And notice, see our Scorchers get all of a sudden faster? You see how they're doing that kind of like speed serum action? And so, as a result, all of our troops are getting faster bit by bit. You're essentially getting speed serum when one of your troops dies. So we have killed now 4 Scorchers, and come on, I guess that's actually 8 Scorchers, but bottom line, we're gonna get our Zookas out here, and notice that our Zookas are moving at normal speed. Oh, there we go. So your troops actually have to be deployed to get the speed boost. You can't just kill some troops early on. That to me makes sense ish. It does say your remaining troops, even that does not appear to include troops that are in landing crafts, so that is a giant mistake on my part. There's a little bit of a learning lesson involved here. That's the first time I've self-murdered troops before dropping, but it makes it very clear that your troops are getting that speed boost because they're moving slightly quicker, and if we throw an artillery on that bunch of Zookas, all of a sudden they start moving quicker and quicker. So, lessons learned here, don't drop troops in a silly fashion, and you can't game the system. Did I mention that those Cryoneers in those bunkers, that previous one, would be affected by that as well? So now we're going to show you where I think you should be using Rally, and that of course is if you use troops like Warriors. Loading Warriors up and hitting bases. By definition, as you start to lose Warriors, your Warriors are going to attack faster, and as a result, your Warriors are going to heal faster, and on top of that, they're going to do more damage. So all of the good things, and I typically don't drop Warriors with a triangle smoke, but in this instance, I figured, you know what, let's do it. We're also gonna get Brick in the play, and notice that because we've lost some Warriors, we've already got that speed boost happening. Brick is gonna give us a, what is the word I'm looking for? Some extra speed on top of that, so as we lose troops, our Warriors are just hitting faster and faster and faster. Highly recommend using this with Warriors if you are primarily a Warrior player, but let's be honest, there are better ones out there, and I have ranked this one quite low on my tier list as well for that exact reason. Moving forwards, hopefully these are all making sense, and one of the things I gotta say is if something doesn't make sense, please do check my comments, because there have been some great comments from all of you guys. Greatly appreciated all of the replies and the questions. Now this one, Leech, this one 25% healing, and by the way, 25% is the maximum. You might be getting a smaller number, but this one is one that I don't rate very high because I tend to use squishy troops, but if you're using troops like heavy choppers or Scorchers or some sort of troop that has a whole bunch of damage, and you've been using Kavan historically, you can just do away with Kavan and bring in extra damage in the form of Bullet. And we are going to drop Scorchers and Tanks. I haven't played Scorchers and Tanks in a heck of a long time, and as a result, I don't even have Bullet unlocked. So we're going to get Bullet. We are going to get Bullet's actually Shock Knuckles involved because we don't need that energy drink. This is a good one for Crab. There are better ones for Crab, but again, we're going to drop Bullet right out front. Then we're going to drop our Scorchers in behind, and notice that Bullet is going to start healing himself up. Not doing a great job of it because he gets shot in the face, and that's where those Shock Knuckles come into play. All of a sudden our troops are healing themselves. We don't need to do anything else. We just drop them and watch them do their best work. They're going to clear this base. We don't need to bring Kavan. We don't need to worry about med kits, and this is one of those ones where the more damage you have, the more healing you're going to get. Shock Knuckles doing great work. All of our troops healing themselves bit by little bit, but as you can see there, all of a sudden, when boom cannons start coming into play, our Scorcher's health starts to decline, and they can't heal quite quick enough, and so that's why on things like the Mega Crab, this one is okay/good, and if you don't have instant training, this is one of those ones that is going to be in your quiver for ones that you want to consider using. And you notice that we lost a total of 0 troops, and that moves us on to the next one that I wanted to show you, that there's a whole bunch of arguments for a couple of these, specifically for Triage, for example. Let's go back here and deactivate. So Leech is going to make you not lose troops as much because they're going to heal up. On the flip side of that coin, Triage will bring your troops back if they die. So if you're like, I generally suck at troops, I end up losing a whole bunch, or maybe you're just doing operation attacks, for example, Triage is going to bring back a bunch of those troops, where you're like, I know I'm going to lose troops no matter what, because I'm a good team player, I'm going to send all my troops to their death in operations. In this case, you get 40% of them back no matter what happens. And that 40% number is not actually accurate. That 40% actually is rounded up in a big way. And yes, on the dev build, I can just keep setting these bases to my own base. I can keep attacking myself. And that's where, when you send your Scorchers in and your tanks in, you actually end up getting closer to 60% of your troops back. So the rounding on these things is bananas and works out in a big way in your favor. Since these new devs have come on board, they have made it so all of the rounding is in your favor, which is fantastic. So with that engraving, where you were getting GBE back from buildings, rounding up. When you're getting troops back from attacks, rounding up. All of these things are working in your favor in a big way, and you don't get 40% of Bullet back. Bullet obviously just comes back, that's why we're not dropping him. We're just letting all of our troops die. We're throwing artillery on them to try and speed that process up, as those boom cannons are doing huge damage to our troops. We're getting no healing, no damage reduction, just when your attack is over, whether you retreat or you win or whatever the heck it might be, it's going to recalculate how many troops you've lost. And come on, last little Scorcher. Need that thing to blow up in a big way, and then we can retreat, and suddenly all of our boats have been refilled. You see that we only lost half of our tanks, and we only lost half of our Scorchers. That is not 40%. That rounding is very much in our favor, but I will take it, and as a result, we only have to reload 3 and 5. So big bonuses there. If you think you're going to lose your troops no matter what, that's a very good one. But if you have instant training, then you probably don't care about that one. So very much depends on if you're one of the people that require it or not. Moving down the line, we're going to get into interference. Again, this one is quite straightforward. It's also not one that I'm super excited about, but maybe your interference is all the way up at quality 10 and everything else you have is at quality 1. That's going to influence your decisions as well. So interference, it slows down defenses. That's all there is to it. Now, slowing down defenses by 15%, is that better than healing 40% or whatever the heck it is? Probably not. But some of these things, there are people who are going to pick each of these and you're not going to be able to argue them off their stand. So I figured I'd show you all of these. Now, Supercell could rebalance these. I really do hope they're looking at the numbers of who's using each one and then they'll boost each of them accordingly. I have not gotten to the ones that I just think are the best yet. But looking at these guys, that boom cannon is shooting very slowly. If I had more time, I would show you exactly how slowly these things are shooting, but side-by-side comparisons and the like would take a whole bunch of time that I don't have and you guys probably don't care about. So 15%, not a huge number, but it definitely does play a little teeny tiny bit of a factor. And if we go back in and scout, it doesn't change the numbering, I don't believe. So if we look at that shock launcher, for example, damage per second is 32. If we come back out here and we deactivate that one right there, and we go back in over here, this is where the stats are a little teeny tiny bit wonky, because by definition, if it's shooting slower, then its damage per second should probably go down. I think that needs to be applied in a future bug fix, but that's just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that matter. And I think that those sort of details would make these engravings a little bit more clear. If there was a number there that said damage per second 32 minus 4 because it's 15% or whatever, that would be helpful, I think. But again, need your feedback on that. And we are getting closer to the confusing ones here. So we've been through, and the good kind of neat thing is the ones that you've used are on the left hand side, so we just need to keep on scrolling. And this one is the one that is probably your best bet for many things, but just be aware that Sabotage has caused some bugs in operations. If one person uses Sabotage and another person doesn't, you end up with the core exploding but buildings still up. Again, another thing that I assume they're going to fix. This one is fairly straightforward. Decreases enemy defensive statues by 35%. And this is the easiest one to show you. This does not do anything for Mega Crab. It does not do anything for Dr. T or War Factory, or actually maybe War Factory. But I just totally misspoke. So defensive statues, period. Anything that has defensive statues, Dr. T, War Factory, Operations, Mega Crab. This one is great for that. Sorry, I was getting my wires crossed there. And this is an easy way to show you. So if we look at assembly, for example, if we check out that rocket launcher, it is doing 26 plus 25. We'll come back to that. And the health on the core is 200,000, so 946. If we jump back out and come back here, and did we actually activate? I don't think I did. Did I screw that up? I think I might have. Where are we at here? Scrolling back to Sabotage. We are going to activate it now, and then we come back in and have a little look, and all of a sudden that is only 600,000. So that is a huge difference. That is a giant difference. And then our shock launcher, the same thing. Notice that it has less health and less damage. Didn't talk about the health, but 15 plus 36. And then if we come back over into here and we deactivate that, just like that, and we go back in, I said 15 plus 36, I do believe, and all of a sudden we're at 15 plus 55. So that is why Sabotage is up near the top of people's lists. It is a giant advantage. It's going to make you finish more crab stages. It's going to make your operations go down. It is fantastic, and that is why it is up near the top of most people's lists. 35% damage reduction is better than 25% Leech, and better than GBE and Ordinance, and 20% extra damage. So realistically, Sabotage should probably be very high on your list. But if you're in a task force that is doing high level operations, do make sure you talk to your team if you're going to use Sabotage, or you might piss them off. Now, moving down the lines onto, and again, these are where you need to try them out. If you are finding that your triage is getting you more troops back than you lose using Sabotage, or you save using Leech, or you get back because of insulation. A lot of these things do the same thing or have the same general effect of saving your troops or making attacks go better. So Sabotage probably is the best bet, but armor is probably the funnest one out there at the second. This one is so ridiculously overpowered. I assume they will make changes to it at some point, but for the moment, have fun with it. And when I say have fun with it, it is because things are bonkers, especially on operation attacks. We're going to look at Machina or Machina, or however you want to pronounce that one. Scrolling over here, notice that the rocket launchers do negative damage per second, and the shock blaster, yes, prototypes are affected, also do negative damage per second. Now, this can be quite a bit confusing because none of those things are going to do damage, but if we come over here and look at Torrent, for example, Torrent, those lasers say they're going to do negative damage. They are not. They are not in a big way. And so, again, that's where these things are, I assume, going to be improved soonish. We're going to drop a laser beam down here. We are going to finish it off. I know I don't have to, but we're just going to drop it for extra emphasis. So that laser beam, notice that the damage per second is 96. That's where this issue is coming up. So armor takes off 100 damage from each shot. Well, if you look at the damage per second of an actual laser, it's actually doing 384 damage per shot. So that's why it shows that it's doing negative damage, because the damage per second, 96 minus 100, negative number, but it's actually doing damage per shot of 384. So if we have a look at rocket launchers, for example, if I can find one of my rocket launchers, their damage per second is 107 for the highest ones, but their damage per shot is 120. So it's per shot that the math is being applied, but the math is being displayed based on damage per second. So lots and lots of confusion involved. Machine guns need to be very concerned about those, and flamethrowers, we can literally just walk our troops in front of those flamethrowers and have no concerns whatsoever. So obviously boom cannons and stuff we do need to be concerned about, but if I send my troops right to there, by definition, by 10 years of boom beaching, you would be very concerned for the well-being of my riflemen. But those rocket launchers doing nearly zero damage depending on where they are, and those flamethrowers also doing very nearly zero damage. So we've got rocket launchers and flamethrowers shooting our riflemen, and none of them are dying. Like, they're just standing in there, and this is where you're seeing replays the most, is from this. People are dropping their troops and just absolutely obliterating high-level operations. Now, armor does not apply to mines, so we have to be very careful to clear all of the mines as our riflemen are still back there attacking flamethrowers. And I didn't check all of these. That one rocket launcher that has a damage amplifier might still be a concern. We'll find out here in a second, but I think we can just stand to the left of that core and absolutely obliterate this base. So we're going to send all of our troops over into here. We are going to drop some smoke, and then just to be super sure, I am going to shock one of those rocket launchers because I forgot to check the one that has a damage amplifier associated with it. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3 smokes, and then eventually, once we all get underneath that smoke, that shock blaster is going to slow our troops, but it's not going to do any damage whatsoever. So we're going to shock the mortars, and we're going to shock that rocket just to be safe. And then look at our riflemen just standing in, taking no damage from any of the rocket launchers. Actually, maybe that back rocket launcher, I didn't check it. These ones down here doing no damage. And again, you do need to check the damage from each of the rocket launchers. That is fairly important. We're going to retreat just so that I can do a double check here to see what I have missed. Do some scouting, double check, and one of the people in our task force said, oh, well, the rocket launcher has a negative number. No. That is not all you need to check. If we do a scout here, we'll see that this rocket launcher is doing negative. Which one of you is not? There's one of you back there. See, 107 minus 48. That is not 0. The answer needs to be at or close to 0. So as you get a higher level rocket launcher, you're going to be in a world of pain. You need to do some scouting. I did not do enough there. We definitely would have soloed it, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get one rocket launcher that is slightly higher level, or you get 3 of them in this case, and those ones will ruin your attack. So do some scouting and do some extra thought towards lasers. Basically just assume that you can't avoid lasers, because even if you have a tick 1 laser, which we're going to build here quickly, or at least even just look at, notice that the damage from that laser beam is 128. So by definition, it's going to do at least 28 damage. And so you're going to have a very, very, very bad time. Okay, I think we're just down to one left, maybe. Long video with not a lot of action, but hopefully this has helped you in some way, shape, or form. Okay, we got Intel left and Alchemy. Both of these I don't like, and so we have left them to the very last by accident, but we are going to get into Intel, and I started to talk about this one a little while ago, and then realized I was talking about the wrong one. This one, your troops gain 35% of the opponent's offensive statue boosts. So this, when you're attacking an operation attack, for example, if we come back in here and look at this operation attack, we look for all of their offensive statues, and you guessed it, there are none. So no boost on operation attacks. If we were to load the Mega Crab, no offensive statues. If we were to load any of the events whatsoever, no offensive boosts. So that is a waste of time. But if we come into here and you're attacking someone who has lots of ice, again, no little offensive boosts. Now, this account only has one green statue out there, and as a result, we're going to get nothing from Intel. Now, if you're attacking a base that has all offensive statues, which are the easiest bases to attack, then, like, for example, if you were to attack my base right here, coming on back, yes, you're going to get some extra offensive being red and purple boosts, but do you really need offensive boosts to beat an offensive player? No, you definitely don't. So that is why Intel is the worst engraving. Like, garbage. Don't even bother with it. I have zero use for it. If you guys do, please let me know. Maybe I've overlooked something, but I don't think so. Finally, Alchemy. And this one, I really think it's useless as well. I would love to have Alchemy if I was like headquarters level 10 or maybe even 20. This one, what it does is converts 100% of the looted construction resources to balance them out. So if you have a hard time getting iron, for example, and you just keep finding bases after bases after bases that have a lot of gold or wood or whatever it might be, you're going to get those things evened out. So you notice up top, my wood is full. I have all of the wood. And so on our resource screen over here, when we scout, notice that the wood, notice that the wood is actually a negative. I don't know what's going on here. Notice, I'm just going to be careful here, that the wood is a negative number. So it's going to take 450,000 wood, and it's going to bring it down to 410%. And then your stone is going to go up to 410%, and your iron is going to go up to 410%. Everything is going to be even, and it does not affect gold by the looks of things. So, if your headquarters level 27, which is required to get the engraver, you probably don't need that one because you've already learned how to balance your stuff, and you have a resource boat that has nothing but millions and millions of resources, so you probably don't really care about that one, but maybe you do. I'm not quite sure. Maybe because of the fact that, you know what, let's just do this. Here's what we're going to do. Just to be extra super duper clear, I have filled all of my storages except for gold. I barraged a bunch of my troops, and now let's have another scout and see how things look. So again, our gold is good. That's the wrong thing for me to do. Let's just one more time. Yeah, so we have made sure that we only have iron deficiency here. Need to jump back in if we can find that base and scout one more time, and suddenly everything is going to be evened out to give us more iron. We're not losing any gold though, so it's only doing the wood and the stone to make our iron nice and strong. So it says all resources when you look at it in the engraver, but it does not appear come back here to affect your gold whatsoever. does not touch that. It does balance out everything else, though. We're going to give away some of the resources we don't care about, which is wood. Actually, we're going to give away all of those resources just to fill up the one that we need. So it is kind of handy if you're struggling to fill up your iron to get your landing crafts up or something in that neighborhood, but overall not one that I would recommend, since again this is headquarters level 27 only. You can tell I just cleared the map so I could spend some resources on the dev build here. We've gone through every single one of these. Sabotage and armor are the two that you probably want to focus on, unless of course you don't have instant training. Then maybe you want to go triage, but let's be honest, you're probably going to lose fewer troops if you have sabotage or armor loaded up. And beyond that, let me know which ones you're using, which ones you think needs to be buffed, and which one you think needs to be nerfed, because let's be honest, I'm almost certain that armor is being calculated incorrectly. So what I believe they're doing, which I have not done the work to figure out, which I probably should, is taking your rocket launchers and taking the damage of 63 minus 100 rather than doing 198 minus 100. So they're doing it before the statue boost is applied, which is making them go negative, which I assume they will fix in a future update, but maybe that was intended and they just really want armor to be super fun. Regardless, hopefully this helped you out. Hopefully it answered all of your questions. If you have any more, do hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, please consider throwing code ZMOT down there. Like and share and subscribe, but more importantly, comments make the world go round. I am ZMOT. Thank you for coming in, keeping that submarine dive, and keeping your engraver engraving, and booming those beaches. Thanks for coming in. Peace.